Brothers and sisters, happy Easter to you on this third Sunday of Easter. I just want to take a second to give a context for where we find ourselves in this passage. The gospel passage that we just heard from John 21 has a big backstory to it. And so while we hear this little snippet, and it's beautiful, we get kind of an overview of the whole scriptures over the cycle of the lectionary. But there's actually a backstory to this that's really important to understand. And so we just heard John 21. I want to take us back to Luke 5. And so Luke 5 is actually the part of the scriptures when Jesus calls Peter and the other apostles from the boat. So Peter and Andrew and John and James, they're in their boat fishing on the Sea of Galilee. Now, if you've ever been to the Sea of Galilee, it's a real place. You can literally see the other side from one side of the It's a lake. It's not a sea, but we're not going to tell them that, make them feel bad. We're Minnesotans. We have real lakes. But anyways, so they're on the Sea of Galilee, and Jesus meets them on the shore of this lake. They are doing their life's work. They're fishermen. Not very good. They haven't caught anything all night in Luke 5. And then eventually Jesus tells them, put out into the sea and put your nets over to this side. And they're like, dude, what? Like, you're a carpenter. And so they do it kind of reluctantly, and then they pull up the net, and it's filled with fish. They hadn't caught anything all night, and they're amazed by how many fish that they've caught. And at that moment, Jesus kind of like wrecks them, if you could put it that way, at their own trade. And then that moment he says, as the apostles are looking at each other like, wait, who is this guy? Who is this guy? He just destroyed us in our own trade. He's looking at us. And he's like, come follow me. I want you to be fishers of men. And that's the moment where they left everything. That was a life-changing moment for Peter and for the others. On this lake, doing that action of fishing with Jesus Christ. And these spots have tremendous importance for us. There's actually some scholars that will even say the spot where John 21 happened is the exact same spot that Luke 5 happened. Now, that's a theory. There's multiple theories as to how that would have unfolded. But you don't forget these important moments, these life-changing moments. So, for example, when I met Jesus, I can take you back to that place. It was the end of June 2010, Big Sandy Camp in McGregor, Minnesota. The building was called Birch. I can tell you what it smelled like. I can tell you the carpet square. Okay, the whole thing. I can tell you the moment I fell in love with Jesus Christ. It can go back there in my head, and I can tell you. You don't forget that. And it's the same thing that you encounter when you talk to couples. I love asking them, how did you guys meet? Whether they've known each other for 2 months or they've been married for 70 years. And they'll kind of give each other that smile look like, hey, who's going to tell it? You or me? Are we going to finish each other's sentences? Are we going to tell the long version, the semi-long version, the short version? And then they go through this story and they can recount in exact detail. Well, actually, it was this friend that set us up on the blind date. Or, you know what? It was actually this bench where she fell in love with me. I fell in love with her. You don't forget those places. That's a significant place. And so what we have here in John 21, all of this background, you have this initial moment on this lake shore of fishing. And then you have Peter, who has fallen in love with Jesus. He's followed him his whole life. He's walked with him. And Jesus has consistently told him, I have big plans for you in your life. And then we get to Holy Week. And Peter denies Jesus. Actually, they all do. Every single one of them whom Jesus has called denies Jesus. Judas does. Andrew does. It says all of them left the shepherd. And actually, Peter does 3 times. And so even though Jesus has now risen from the dead, when John 21 is happening, they know that he's won. What's going on in their heart? Peter is saying to himself, I blew it. God had big plans for me. God had big plans for my life, but I've denied him. And even though he's been raised from the dead, I've disqualified myself. I have disqualified myself by my bad actions from God's plan in my life. I am unworthy of this. I have fallen. I'm beating myself up. I'm so ashamed. and this forever is going to define me. That's what Peter is telling himself. And so, John 21, where is he going? He's going to the last place pre-Jesus that he can remember. He's going to his pre-Jesus self. And so he's going to the same lake with the same people to do the same activity. And Jesus is so poetic. Peter's beating himself up on the inside. And he's going back to fishing, still not good at it, by the way. And all of a sudden, what does Jesus do? He recreates that exact encounter when he first called him. I mean, think about this with the husband and wife example we just used. Could you imagine, 30 years into this marriage, you're going through a rough patch, and rough patches will happen. And all of a sudden, the husband goes back to that bench. He sets up flowers. He kind of recreates the exact environment where they first fell in love. He sits her down and he says, you know what? We've been through a lot, but guess what? That initial falling in love, I still love you. I'm still in love with you. The call still stands. I'm still married to you. Your actions, my actions have not disqualified us. That's what Jesus is doing. He's bringing Peter and these others to this exact same spot where he first called them, and he's setting the table so that he can recall them. He calls them on the same shore of the sea, the same activity of fishing, and then it's the same plot. Throw your nets over the side. Your nets are going to start to break through so many fish that you're catching. And then he recalls them. It's so beautiful. And then here we have it. 153 large fish. Why is that? Well, it's not just because the gospel writer, John, really liked that number. 153. No. 153 was the number of species of fish that the Hebrew world believed in. That there were total on earth. There were 153 different types of fish. So that detail is important. When they pull up the net and 153 different types of fish are in the net, that means every single type of fish in the world you have just caught by God's grace, by God's instruction. Meaning, do you remember that call that Jesus gave to you in Luke 5, Peter, that said, come with me, I'm going to make you fishers of men? That call still stands. This world, all of these people need this good message. Jesus, long story short, Jesus looks Peter dead in the eye and he says, no, the invitation and the call to catch men has not been revoked. And that's when Peter and John and the others realize what he's up to. Peter's so excited he swims into the shore. But he was in this place of feeling unworthy, disqualifying himself. All right, so what does that have to do with you and with me? How often do you and I find ourselves in pity parties? How often do you and I find ourselves in this place that Peter was in, beating ourselves up, being so hard on ourselves? And again, I'm talking on the spiritual level, not necessarily the psychological level. But I actually think one of Jesus' pet peeves is when you and I are harder on ourselves than he is on us. We unnecessarily beat ourselves up. Why are our standards for ourselves higher than the living God? When you say it like that, it sounds funny, but it's true. And in high school, I had a priest tell me once, in this same vein, he said, you know what, Ryan? If you were to treat others the way that you treat yourself, I'd punch you in the face. And I'm like, wait, you're a priest, can you say that? And he's like, no, I mean it. If you treated your classmates the way that you treat yourself in your heart, just beating yourself up, you're constantly giving up on yourself, you're down on yourself, you'd be in the principal's office within 30 seconds. You wouldn't even survive a minute without being there. And Jesus actually feels that way with us. I mean, think about when your younger siblings were on the playground and someone else was being mean to them. I mean, you'd go over there and you'd rearrange that guy's face. But hey, I'm the only one that gets to pick on my siblings. You don't get to do that. You're protective of them. That's how Jesus feels with us when we're beating ourselves up. He's protective of us. And sometimes people will say, well, I'm hard on myself because I'm humble. I'm humble. I have humility. No. Let me tell you this. This is a definition of humility. Humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. There can actually be this thing called holy self-love, where you love yourself and treat yourself the way that God does. He wants you to be free. He wants you to be, not falling into sin and these different things, but he's gentle and forgiving. So what is my message to you? Well, maybe, my brothers and sisters, what you and I need to hear today is that your failure in your life, whether you woke up this morning and have had a horrible day, whether you've had a really tough couple of months here, or whether, 50 years ago I did this thing and it still bothers me to this day and I'm still beating myself up about it. Maybe you and I need to hear this message today that your failure does not outweigh God's love for you. Put the two on a scale. I guarantee you God's love is going to outweigh whatever weakness from the past that you're hearing. Your past does not define your future with Jesus. God never gives up on you. He called you, and you know the place. And perhaps today you and I need to hear this, that like Peter, his call in your life still stands. He has not given up on you. And so, my brothers and sisters, don't be hard on yourself. Be gentle, like Jesus is gentle with you, and let him recall you to what the beautiful plan he has in your life. Again, your weakness hasn't disqualified you, but he actually wants to enter into that place, that exact same place where he initially called you and recall you. His call still stands. He loves you and his offer is still there. Will you accept it? Will you let him love you?